Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
It is 9 o'clock on the nose.
Perfect
And
timing.
we'll go ahead and start the Administrative Practices Committee,
Let's
March
do that.
3rd, 2020. Not sure we need to go through introductions because
No, I don't
the
think
only
so.
only folks in the room are staff at this moment. So we'll open up with public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public comment.
Okay.
Item number 1, approving the minutes of the February 4th meeting.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with them.
So moved.
It's
All
like-
right, item number 2. Mr. Summers.
All right. Good morning, directors and staff. I'm here today to request that the committee consider making a recommendation to the board of directors to approve hydroelectric department training. Board policy 2175.2 requires expenses in excess of $3,000, including all meals, transportation, lodging, and training costs, to be approved by the board of directors. Prior to going to the board, we've wanted to come to the committee to make sure we had a recommendation to move forward. This training request is looking for a recommendation to approve 2 separate trainings. The first is to send one member of the department to a training focusing on controls and instrumentation. We're lucky in that the El Dorado Irrigation District is sponsoring a local class, so the travel expenses are a bit lower for this one than you might expect sending someone else out of town. The second request is to send a hydroelectric machinist to Governor School. The governor is the part of the powerhouse that controls the speed and load of the powerhouse. It's critical. In the case of the governor system, I believe that sending a person to this training will save money in the long run. You can see in the staff report here that last year we had to spend about $11 grand to bring someone out from American Governor to work on one of our governors. So in the long run, I believe this one will pay for itself. I believe that both pay for themselves.
So we currently not, what's the word I want, fiddle with us ourselves.
We do it at some level,
Repair.
but this is the more advanced training. They're very complicated old mechanical machines. They have fly balls that spin, and that's how fast the unit knows how fast it's going.
How
So.
old is that particular technology?
This governor was installed in the '60s. The governor, yeah, the fly ball technology is much older than that. So. So the 2020 Hydroelectric Department budget includes $35,000 for training expenses such as these. We expect that these 2 trainings will cost about $10,000 total, and to date we haven't expended any of the $35,000. So today I'm asking for your recommendation to the board. All right, can we put it on the consent agenda, or is that?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right.
That was
Great.
easy.
We will move item number 2 to the board on consent. Item 3.
All right, so today, on item number 3, we're asking that the committee approve a contract with Zanhero and the associated budget amendment for continued support of the implementation of the CMMS program, and authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents. First of all, I'd like to apologize. The date shown in the background is incorrect. It was
saw that.
it was neither the correct day nor the correct year. So it was. Yeah, the staff report was written on July 24th, but the board meeting was on July 31st, 2019. So at that time, the board of directors approved spending, in addition to the contracts at that time, approved spending $627,373 for backfill of staff and time necessary to successfully complete the project. At that time, they also awarded a contract to Zanhero to develop the asset, or to provide the project management to develop the asset hierarchy, attribute list, and identification of workflow needs. There's roughly 12 months left in this job, and we're looking for the committee to approve an additional project management scope for this. You can see the various meetings and tasks that need to be done as a part of this contract. Staff is recommending a sole source award to Zanhero in this case because they've been with the project since the day it was initiated. They actually helped us pick the software. They wrote up all the functional requirements. They handled the request for proposal for the software vendors. And staff believes that that it's necessary to maintain continuity in order to avoid the costs and delays associated with awarding to someone else. Staff believes that this recommendation complies with section 3080.3.J.2 of board policy and is in alignment with strategic goal number 4. In terms of budgetary impacts, the proposed contract totals $226,222. There's approximately $120,000 remaining in the prior authorization following the award of a contract later in today's meeting. So staff is recommending a transfer of an additional money to this job. The Hydroelectric Department included $100,000 for CMMS implementation in the Hydroelectric Department budget. We're in order to be consistent and put it in the right pot, we're recommending moving that money over and then borrowing a little bit from the pre-license implementation of federal of FERC conditions to fully fund this project. Following those transfers, the CMMS implementation budget will be exhausted, and there will be $92,000 remaining in the pre-license implementation of FERC conditions budget. So with that, I'll take any questions you may have on this request.
Well, I had several questions, and I sent them to, there he is, Marvin.
Okay.
Good. They'll probably answer my question.
Well, since you didn't get your packet till this morning, probably.
Okay.
This so happens.
Help me explain it.
Thank you so much.
Yes, yes.
I apologize for not getting those questions to you earlier
No,
in the
that's
day,
okay.
but.
Good morning, committee and staff and public. Marvin Davis, Finance Manager. And so we're going to show the current spent on the project and encumbered, reconcile it to the budget to show that we're still within the budget. Because your first question had to do with the December 30th project, reflecting a total of about $380,000 spent.
Yeah,
in
so
this-
on here, you know, I just took this from our project and facility balances, so it showed 385.27 spent in the financial systems implementation line item, but you can address, is that correct?
This is
Was
correct.
there other line items that I didn't pick up?
No, this is correct. When you look at that 380,527, and now look at that report for your December 2018 project report, and when you look at project 2295, you see 327,231.
Wait a minute, I see 380. Where do I-
So on this report right here,
Oh, here. on this
yeah.
one.
So we're gonna show a reconciliation. The report, the project.
2295, okay.
Exactly.
327,231.
The project and facilities budget contains labor. It contains labor dollars from staff. So this is why those numbers are, this is why the number in your project and facilities budget is a little bigger, because it contains labor dollars. So as staff is charging their time, you can,
Right.
so you can see labor dollars
But
here.
isn't that still real charges?
Yes, but in our capital budget, the labor dollars aren't budgeted in our capital budget. So in our capital budget that you approve, the labor dollars aren't there. These are external dollars. So the reason why we do it like that is because in the accounting world, when we get ready to capitalize the project, so all of this project that we're
Yeah,
accumulating,
you can't capitalize labor.
you
right?
can.
You can a little.
You
can a
can.
little bit?
You can capitalize everything that's required to put the product into service. However, when we budget, we don't budget staff time against capital projects. Staff time hits the salaries budget.
Okay.
Okay, but there you go. But to give the board an idea of how much resources the project is consuming,
Yes.
we show the full amount.
Uh-huh.
And so in that regard, it's not over budget. So this project and facilities balance sheet, you can't really use it to determine if you're in budget, because it's going to have labor dollars in it.
See, that doesn't make sense to me.
Hold on,
Go ahead.
just really quickly, 2295 is the ERP project, not the CMMS.
It's both. 2295
Yeah, I
is
think it
both
was both.
financial
Right.
system implementations. And the reason why we do it, reason why we show labor dollars when you're looking at this, this project and balancing schedule, is it shows you the total amount of resources the project is consuming.
Understood.
Once
Yes.
the project's closed and we spin out the parts that we
There
take
you-
it all apart, we capitalize the parts we can,
Mhm.
and then we admin off the balance.
Yes. But from your perspective, Director, Hack, when you're looking to see whether the project is still within budget,
Right.
it's this schedule.
That's this,
This is the schedule.
It's this.
Your monthly budget versus actual. This is the schedule that you have to use to see whether it's in budget.
Mhm.
And so, well, let's look at that schedule. So that schedule we see in 2019, we had a budget 2.75 million.
Right.
The actual column reflects what we have spent year to date for that particular project. So we had spent 327,000, right?
Yeah.
The big number next to that is very important. That's encumbrances, which is $2 million. This shows you that we've contracted already for $2 million in addition to having spent 327,000. So, for instance, when you were determining whether we're in budget, you would add your actual spent
Mhm.
plus your future encumbrances, which is your POs, and you see the balance of the project left. So at the end of 2019, and obviously we're before you in 2020, the end of 2019, we still had $370,000 left in the project to,
In the budget.
excuse me, in the budget, yes, in the budget to consume.
And that was recaptured in the capital renewal and replacement reserves.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
given elementary, because I just got the packets.
Okay,
No worries.
okay, I know.
We're not talking about spending more money on the project, we're talking about shuffling some around to finish the project. Is
We're,
that correct?
no, we are talking about the project consuming a little bit more.
More, okay.
About another 100-some thousand. However, it's going to be moving some money around. It's not going to be going into reserves. So for 2020, Ken had planned for a certain amount of dollars in his consultant's budget. And he's just saying that he's going to use less of those dollars and move more over to the project. However, we're not going to go into reserves. So in that regard, the project will stay within budget if you increase the budget. We're asking for an increase.
Understood. If you
Yeah.
do the budget amendment.
Yeah.
So Kian, what are we giving up to get this? What do you?
Yeah.
There we
Now,
go.
there's another question.
There's a question.
So for the $100,000 transfer, you're not giving up anything. That money was earmarked to spend on CMMS. It was put in the wrong budget, wrong bucket
Oh.
in the budget. You're simply moving it across. And then you're giving up about $8,000 worth of pre-licensed condition implementation. So this is projects that we were gonna do prior to the implementation of the FERC license. These, given the time frame on the FERC license, I'm comfortable deferring these a little bit farther down the road. And $8,000 isn't a significant hit off of that budget.
That's how we
So-
come up with 108,000.
And so these, what are these? Just as examples, right?
So it can be building
Gauges.
gauging stations, it can be trying to do some of the archaeological studies that we have to do prior to the license coming into effect. There's a stack, which we'll be discussing further in the WHO committee meeting here coming up, of projects that could be done with this budget money. But they're not as urgent, in my opinion, as the CMMS project at this time.
Right. So, this is where it got crazy for me. When you look at, again, that project and facilities balances for 2020.
Yes,
the
yes.
last one we had as of 2/15, it showed that in January, we spent $517,237.
Yes.
And yet, when you look at the warrants for that same period, there was just, I think, 18,000 or something for account temps. So I'm thinking, well, what did we spend that 500,000 on? Because it didn't show up
In the warrants?
in the warrants. Yeah, exactly.
The warrants, I have the warrants in front of me, but the warrants, the vendors, like accountants is just one vendor.
Yes.
Then obviously there could be,
Yeah, you know what, I
Generic.
actually did a control find. You know,
Okay.
because I'm really nerdy about this.
Okay.
So, I looked for everything that would, that would have the 2295 account on it.
Mhm.
And the only thing that came up was account temps for 2020 at $18,000, and then, but you see, 517,000.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking, there's a disconnect, and I'm not getting it probably, so I'm really asking for help in trying to figure
Mhm.
out where my disconnect
Yeah,
is.
I'll take a look at it. This is for the entire month of January. The
Yeah.
warrants, was it for 2 weeks? Was it a 2-week period, or was it for the
No,
warrants
it
for
was-
the
It's
whole
last set
month?
of warrants that
It was the
delivered?
last set of warrants that was.
Okay, so I'll
delivered.
take a look.
We're out of cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'll
something-
take a look.
Something is goofy.
Yeah, because this year,
Because it
we,
shows, this year we spent $580,000
Yeah,
so far.
yeah.
And I'm going, where did that
Which
money
means
go?
the system is seeing a charge, so a warrant has transacted, it may be in the next warrant block.
it could
Or it might
possibly.
be miscoded or something,
Uh,
because really, you do the control find, and there's only one warrant that shows.
Yeah, yeah, and all of our project expenses are hitting 2295. Now, we're very,
Is there a Tyler one?
The Tyler one, I didn't bring. the
it could be
warrants.
Tyler, because this amount, 517, is probably a payment against the actual contract with Tyler. They're actually,
Tyler is, remind me please.
it's the vendor for our,
The vendor
for our
the-
ERP.
For the ERP.
And they bill according to, as they install modules, as they do training.
So what does Zenjiro do? I mean, that was the other thing. I couldn't figure out who they were, what their qualifications were. In the next group of things,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we're talking about hiring a consultant, we have a resume and contracts and everything. It's like, who is Zenjiro?
This is
And
her.
what do they,
You probably didn't see these questions.
it feels like,
Yeah, I haven't seen
is
the
it
questions,
duplicative?
No, this is continuative. So we've got them working on the project as our project manager.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And we're extending that project management activity.
It seems really expensive. So the other questions I had around this were, sorry everyone.
That's all right, no, you're answering most of my questions, you're doing good.
Was, so the budgetary impact is 226,000, so the question is what is the term? What is that transfers to an hourly rate? Like, again, on the next item, we see what that hourly rate is for the IT person.
Yes.
But there's nothing here that says what the hourly rate is for Zanjero. And then I want to know what the deliverables are, because this is like meet and coordinate. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, and what is the timing? And so, how long does this, since there's 12 months remaining, is this a not to exceed like our IT consultant is?
Yes.
Because it doesn't say that here, and it just
Okay,
seems like
it is a
it's
not to
huge
exceed.
amount of money.
I don't have the dollar amount on me. I can
What dollar amount?
pull, or the hourly rate. So I don't have that schedule. I can go find it and pull it. So the reason this is so much and that it's so complicated is the number of meetings that are required. So in terms of deliverables, it'll be agendas, it'll be meeting minutes, it'll be all those things to keep things moving along. You can see we've broken up a number of different subcommittees that are meeting to make this happen, and that's what we've discussed here. And so the CMMS-ERP steering team, that's the coordination team that makes sure that the CMMS will work with the ERP when it's all said and done. The vendor technology team, we have a number of IT technology related problems that we're trying to make sure we cover to make sure that these two systems will talk. This is everything from how does the GIS work its way up through Setaru to the Tyler product. So there's a whole bunch of different technical issues that need to be solved, and that's the committee that does it. This person will lead that team.
So this is one person, Zanjero is one person, or is
It'll
it
be-
a person assigned by the consulting group, or?
Most of the work will be done by one person. The way he's got it set up now is he has a less expensive person that puts together the actual agendas, puts together the meeting minutes, so he's not cranking those numbers through.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
but-
I mean, 256,000 for running meetings and typing agendas and minutes is like, that's a lot of money, you guys.
It's a long time period. I mean, so it is over a year, and there are at least 1 to 2 of each of these meetings per month. The way that it's scheduled, I know on the ERP side, they're meeting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, almost every week through the implementation of the process. This is a massive amount of effort and a massive amount of coordination and project management that goes along with that effort to make sure that everybody is steered in the same direction the entire time.
And then my question, this request is just for the hydroelectric side, not the water.
No.
not the- This is just.
This is all in.
This is for everything. So what, the CMMS cross-cuts a cut.
Right, I get that part, but this is, but it's coming, it's listed as hydroelectric, so that's my question.
The budget transfer is from the hydroelectric department to the project.
But it
Uh,
benefits the whole project.
But it benefits the entire
All
project.
connects.
Yeah.
So, and this is my general, challenge is the scope of the project, where we stand. We haven't had an update about where we stand and why we're at this point. Because that's, to me, that's just it's just out there.
I know, it's just like this big.
Right, so,
suck
being
hole
this
of money.
layperson.
We don't know what
Yeah.
we're getting.
That barely can turn on a computer.
So I can give you an update on the CMMS project. Marvin can probably talk to the ERP if you'd like.
I think that'd be really good for everybody to
Really
hear,
helpful, yes, right.
you know, so that we understand
Yeah.
where
So.
we are, and how much money this whole thing has cost. I mean, we knew going in, it was
Right,
gonna be a lot,
right.
and everybody agreed that was fine, so.
That was a shocking number, but
It was a
I
shocking
got
number.
it because of where we stand,
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of technology and being up to date. I agree with doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, these are
So-
all big numbers. Every time they're big numbers.
Warrants that are coming.
So
They
to,
scare lay
Yeah.
people, but they haven't dealt with it.
to date on this, well, we'll let them.
Because this was done in January, sorry, you guys, that was a January 2020 warrant.
Okay.
So that's, you can see why it kind of raised a red flag for me. I couldn't understand what was going on. And so back to my other question, so we're not seeing a contract or an amendment or anything here, but, what I heard you say is that this is a not to exceed.
Yes.
It's 12 months. And the deliverables are these bunch of meetings and things that you've got lined out here. And what happens at the end of the 12 months if it's not done? Usually things don't ever come in on time.
Yeah.
What?
Our cost of service study,
I know, cost of service
Yeah.
is great.
on time like an arrow.
Yes.
This one's more difficult.
This one is absolutely more difficult,
I
right?
know, that's
There
my
are a lot
problem.
of.
It's like, this is really expensive, and, so what do we have as leverage on the consultant to say, dude, or dudette?
I can ensure that he will deliver the meeting minutes and the deliverables shown here. What I can't control is, since we're dealing with a variety of different contractors, right? We've got Tyler, we've got
Yeah, I
Setter, we've
know.
got
It's all the
Panorama.
coordination.
I can't guarantee that all three of those will meet their deliverables. And so if everybody hits, then we won't have a problem. But if not, then we're gonna have to deal with it as we move forward through this
Well,
process.
but then that's some of having a project manager, right, is that person is supposed to ensure that Cetaru hits and that our CMMS program is aligned with the ERP program as it tries to meet its deliverable targets, right? So.
Yeah.
And if the project comes in early,
This
do
is,
we?
then we're done. Yeah, this is.
Well, no, but I
Is
mean,
there a
but I mean,
bonus or something? Is that what
well,
you're-
no, not really. I was just
Oh.
wondering if,
So I'm
This-
comparing it to put it in a pipe and we have a time certain. We're gonna turn on the water on March 31st. This is more subjective than objective. I understand because of the difficulties of what we're talking about.
Right, and then you have to, the understanding is that we're bringing on software packages and systems that don't exist within NID. Right, and
Where
so
pipeline projects do.
we're having to, with a pipeline project, we already know how to do that,
Yeah,
it's,
okay.
getting permission to do it. The CMMS stuff, right now, some of that is stuck in somebody's head,
Somewhere.
and some of it is in a filing cabinet, and some of it is on the back of a piece of paper somewhere. So we're trying to collect all that, and so having a project manager that can run all that, because having the manager do that is not a good, effective use of our time. And we have to get the work done, so I don't have staff within the department to do that. So finding a project manager that is external, that can support Ken, kind of on a one-to-one, so he has direct control over that person, is kind of where we're headed. We have a very similar situation on the ERP side that we're working on at this point, but to keep these two projects rolling forward, right, we're talking about a $2 million effort. And we absolutely, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here,
That's
but
right.
we absolutely have to have these programs. They're not.
no, I agree with that.
And I do too.
Everybody's
And I
agreed
think
with
It's
that.
not,
So-
I need a feeling for how we feel about where we are and where we're going.
We are-
I have no
And if we're gonna be
clue.
on budget and, or is this gonna go like some kind of big cost overrun?
So far, we're on budget. I mean, this is the first
Yeah.
time we
Schedule.
come, and it's an $8,000 correction, I would say.
Right.
not a-
It's not $100,000.
$100,000.
That's an
So
$8,000
we're operating within the budget parameter that we got off,
Mhm.
that we're authorized. I think that, I met with the teams last week. We're on track at this point. We've been meeting and we're just finishing one phase. That's why GHD is moving out. That's why we're ready to start this other.
So was this always part of the plan?
Yeah, so we awarded the first phase of the contract. We knew that we would have, the goal was to test it to see if we could handle it in-house, if we could transfer this work to staff. But the workload is too much for staff to handle this. And this is one of those ideal situations for a consultant. You bring them in, they get through the heavy lift, and then you cut them loose. And that's the plan with this one here. So it was always considered. We didn't know if we were going to have to use it or not. It's become very clear that we're going to need full-time, or that we're going to need this
Well,
scope
that's the other
of
thing,
project
is like
management.
how much time? I mean, 226,000 for a year, but, you know, that's a 40
It's
to
roughly
60
half-time.
hour a week.
It's roughly half-time,
It's
the way it
half-time.
pencils out, yeah.
So we need to be to a consultant.
I am in one. But I don't get paid 250,000 a year.
So back to the, was the online bill pay part of this or not? That was different, yeah, okay. So we have anything up and running that's giving us
A good feeling?
a good feeling, yeah.
We're not there yet. We're
Well,
working on it.
Okay.
So I'd say on
I'm
this,
about to say something. It's gonna get, I'm gonna get it.
Okay.
But we're really trying to get the payroll electronic.
Yes,
And
that was
that's our
a
first.
goal.
Yes.
That's our
That's
first
a
goal.
push there, yeah.
and I think the CMMS is moving along well. I think
Yeah,
that
no.
to date, I mean, we have developed the asset hierarchies, which is
Yeah.
essentially the file structure that we're going to put all this stuff in the computer for. We developed the draft attributes list, which is all the information that we'll then have to go out and gather about all these pieces of information. And this week is our last week of workshops to develop the workflow needs and how we're going to process work through the various programs. So I think, I don't have a product I can flash up on the screen and show you yet, but we're making good progress towards the completion of this project.
That's helpful.
That
is helpful.
And you feel like this is in line? I mean, this 250,000 for a half-time person for a year is in line. I'm just kind of still like, oh, it's just.
It's a reasonable number based on what we're seeing in the market.
It's frightening.
I think staff, I'd be happy to bring a status update to this committee.
Yeah, I think we
on
should
where
have
we
a
are with
status
the
update.
ERP
Yeah.
and CMS.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yes, we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, we haven't.
We haven't asked about it. Just.
Certainly,
no
something we can
news is
provide
good news.
regularly.
Now we have bad
Yeah.
news.
Now we have bad news. Now we have to
Now
look
we
at
have
it.
questions.
As we move through
Hit the
different phase
milestones.
horizons, right, and we hit various milestones, I think it's probably good to keep this, right, we're talking about a project that represents roughly, what, 2%?
Mm-hmm.
Of
Yes.
our,
It's about 3 million.
Yeah, this is a
budget's about
huge,
20
huge
million.
thing that we're embarking on, and
Yeah.
it needs to be
Absolutely.
Yeah.
on.
needs executive input.
Needs
Okay.
to be on time and on budget.
Yes. Okay.
And not cost any more money, holy moly.
Yeah.
Um,
So are we thumbs up?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Yes, I am.
I'm good with it. It's a lot of money. I don't know how, if the board wants to do this consent or not.
This
I
is
mean,
your,
this is your choice.
you're voting
The
to
com-
say go, no go.
Oh, we're voting, okay.
We're voting.
I'm voting to say yes.
I'm voting to say yes.
Excellent. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for answering
Thank
the
you,
question.
yeah. So
Yeah, it
Barry,
would be
with,
nice to figure this out.
Ellen,
That was
I will
really,
have that.
you see, that's
Yes.
why I would have.
And I think that there's one, as we've started to develop these reports, Ricky, there are disconnections in terms of, so certain ones we see in cans, right? This one's in its own bucket, the
Mhm.
ones are in their own bucket. They're not timing wise happening all at the same time. So
Mhm.
we want to be able to explain that and definitely give you guys a feeling for, you know, when you see this report, know that that's absolutely day one. That's the day that that report was cut. This
Mhm.
is what the system sees, and that's everything that's charged to that project. Warrants, this is just the warrants that were cut in this brief
Right.
time period. When you see the quarterlies, this is what information is in there, and that's when that information was cataloged, because if they're not all in line, then you can't balance against all of those documents.
Understood,
And that
right.
may, that's something we need to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Because either the board needs to say, okay, I'll understand that, and that's okay with me that these documents work that way. Or, no, what I really want is, I want to be able to see a tie. So
That's
when
what I was
deli-
trying to
when
do last
when
night, was
deliver
trying to
my
tie it
quar-
all out.
Yeah, so when I do my quarterly, all of the documents that are in my quarterly will tie. And that's,
Mhm.
I don't know that I can say that I don't know that the documents were created that way, so I'll work with Marvin and we'll get an answer to that.
Okay, cool. Thank you, guys.
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right. Close item 3, motion item number 4. Shannon.
Good morning, directors and staff. I'm here to present a request from a developer to consider an amendment to an existing conveyance agreement. In general terms, when a developer executes a conveyance agreement, we have a regulation that states if they are developing for 4 or less parcels, they do not need to prepay capacity fees for meters that will be ultimately installed. If they're developing for 5 or more parcels, then NID requires them to pay the minimum capacity charge of a 5/8 inch meter. This particular conveyance agreement for Deer Creek Park Phase 1 is a 7-lot subdivision, and at that time the engineer had requested to install 3/4 inch meters. Whether it was for a larger home, they were also considering secondary dwelling units
Right.
on site. So I think they were anticipating installing that larger meter for those two purposes. However, now it's time to close up the project and it's time to pay that bill, and the cost difference between a 5/8 inch capacity meter capacity fee and a 3/4 inch meter capacity fee is substantial, and so the developer.
What is it, actually?
Sorry about that. For a 5/8 inch meter, it's $10,929, and for a 3/4 inch meter, it's $15,738. So in all, over the 7 lots, the total for a 5/8 inch meter capacity charge would be $76,503, as opposed to $110,166. So it's substantial.
Yeah,
It's about
it's a number.
35,000,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a big number.
So what the developer has requested is if they could pay the minimum charge at this point when we're closing up the project, getting the offer of dedication signed so that that pipe is in a part of our distribution system, and then when they actually apply for the meters to be installed, if they choose to in fact install a 3/4 inch meter, they would pay the difference. Just as if anybody were upsizing a meter. At any time, if
So
a
it's
5/8.
up to their discretion.
Yeah, and we collect based on what the actual size of meter that goes in the ground.
That's understandable.
It is. What about phase 2 of this project? I know that this project has, on the other side of this road, there's a phase 2. When I was on the planning commission, we acted to approve parts of this project. And there, as I recall, there was a phase 2, and there are future parcels between, Red Dog and I forget what they call this road here.
I don't actually think I think that's designated as open space.
Is it?
Because
I mean,
it drops,
it's been a few
it drops
years.
off
Yeah.
quite steeply. Deer Creek Park, that final map
Yeah.
is much larger. This is just one phase. I don't remember all the details of,
I know the developer's not here, so I know
No.
you can't answer for them.
No.
But, and then my other concern was the ADUs. I remember very specifically, they came and got
Mhm.
pre-approval for ADUs on each and every lot.
Mhm.
So that would seem to me that their capacity, they would need greater. But my guess is, if I was Mr. Emerald, that I would get the smaller meter, and then if the homeowner, the end user decided to put in an ADU, then they'd have to upsize those meters.
Potentially.
I can
So,
imagine that.
and if it's one parcel, as it is, a secondary dwelling unit does not force them to either
Oh, it doesn't?
upsize, and it doesn't force them to install second meter. So as long as it's one parcel, you may have one meter serving 2 units on the parcel.
Too. Okay.
Now, they might experience a water lack of, and that would maybe.
Or pressure, would they have a pressure shortage?
Let's start.
Because I noticed at the
It's a
end of the line,
volume
they've got
thing, correct.
4-inch water line, and the beginning of the line got 6-inch. So you're kind of wondering, the folks at the end of the line, not that this is my problem or our problem, but wouldn't you tend to have less pressure at the end of the line, and now or maybe that's the reason for.
Yeah, usually it's sized for the development appropriately for all services.
Okay.
And I should get the vote on that. So, and if I can add to the conversation of 1 meter serving multiple dwelling units on one parcel, we allow that. However, we are anticipating reviewing capacity and overall usage on these parcels at some point in time. And so just because they bought a 5/8 meter gives them 1,250 gallons per day of capacity into our system. There's a chance that they may overuse that capacity in the future if they build multiple dwelling units on the parcel. And that's something we'll have to look out for in the future.
Yeah.
But in this particular scenario, it makes total sense to me that the parcels have not been developed yet.
Right.
And so put in the minimum meter, build your parcel,
Build your
and
parcels and
decide
pass-
later
pass
if that's
along.
enough, and if it's not, you'll need to upsize and pay the district for the upsize.
No, I agree. I just,
I agree.
yeah, it's kind of a private property thing, but.
And the developer may still elect to install a 3/4 inch meter at the time that they're developing the property itself. I mean, they may still be doing that based on the demand that they know is gonna happen on the property. It's just a matter of when we're doing the paperwork process, the minimum.
Yeah. I was just concerned about the ADU capacity, so.
So we're amending this agreement.
Right,
Is
so,
that what we're doing?
right, the existing conveyance agreement that was executed by the board does say that they will pay based on a 3/4 inch capacity fee.
Okay.
So I feel comfortable collecting something less than that since that's what was executed.
Exactly. So,
So, looking for direction on, A,
Yeah,
how to
okay.
amend it, and if the committee can advise staff to do that, or if the board needs to.
the board needs to change this, right? Because without the change to this agreement, I'm gonna require $97,811.
Right, so it has to be amended.
We were anticipating an amendment going to the full board,
Right.
hopefully under consent.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, so, so we're amending this agreement, or do we quash this agreement and create a second agreement?
Oh, I think you should just amend this one, because then you have the trail of what happened.
I would just amend it.
Okay.
That's the only thing changing in the agreement. Does it, and does it have to be an entirely new agreement, or just a
No,
one-page
just a
amendment?
one-page amendment to
Article to
this
article
agreement. Yeah.
amendment? Yeah.
So just like it just needs to be a letter agreement between the two parties that we're gonna modify section whatever.
Article 3.
Section 3, yeah, section 3. Okay.
Mhm.
Do we need to let the county know that, because I'm sure the county plans have.
County plans are gonna show
have
the larger
They'll
upsize
have the
meters.
3/4 inch meter on it.
And they'll have something to say about it, because this was predicated on the ADU pieces being approved back when I was on the commission, so. You don't think that's a problem, you don't think it's a
The
thing?
county typically doesn't have, I mean, we never let the county know.
When the county approves the plans, it has a utility plan within
Mhm.
it, and the utility plan's gonna show 3/4 meters on it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we just need to make sure that inside the amendment, not only do we change the terms in 3, but we also require that the developer
Notify the county.
county of the meter side, of the utility pay, of the utility change. And that's fine, right, that's on him to do.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Consent. Are you guys okay with it going as consent?
Probably, although there probably would be questions.
There'll
but-
always be questions, so, yeah.
They can get pulled.
Yeah, I think it's fine on consent.
Okay.
I'll probably pull it myself.
Well, save that step right now.
I know, no, I just like, what'll
You'll
happen
never-
is I'll
you'll forget
forget,
about when it
that's all
comes
I'm
up.
saying, is I'll forget, that, oh yeah, I did see this,
I
okay.
did see that.
Hey, speaking of that, when these items go on consent or otherwise, does it say on there that this was heard at the committee on this date and it was recommended by the committee to go?
Yeah.
It does say that?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never seen that, but that's,
So in the recommendation.
in the
Yeah,
recommendation
it was-
part it says, okay, thank you.
I don't think I'll ever bring a contested item as a consent. item.
No, that would not be a
No,
good, that would not be a good move.
That would be
That'd
just a
be
slip of the
crazy.
pen.
All right,
Okay, we'll close item 4, and Marvin, item number 5, please.
Morning again, committee. This is the other contract associated with the financial system.
Yeah.
And again, this is part of our backfill budget. We had a backfill budget of about $637,000 that the board approved. And so this is part of that backfill budget. After we approved this backfill budget, these calculations were done before we approved Ken's. So now that we've approved Ken's contract, the project is exhausted. The project had about a $120,000 budget prior to Ken's going through. And so we coordinated that, Ken and I coordinated that. We do produce a pipeline article giving status updates to the project, but this is kind of high level.
Yeah.
And we do have a SharePoint database that tracks our project. So we have a SharePoint database that's controlling our project implementation of it. And so it is being done in an orderly fashion. So this is the contract for the gentleman that will come in. A little bit urgent for us. As you know, we lost JR. And so JR was going to do a lot of this data pulling, mapping to other databases, and creating APIs for us. But this gentleman here, he's going to be able to take that role for us.
So this becomes more urgent right now because of the CMMS? thing
And the
going on?
loss of JR.
It becomes urgent because JR is gone.
But I mean,
Yeah.
that's aggravated the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, way past aggravated.
Way past
Yeah.
We're in the collapse mode.
Yeah.
Right, so the loss of JR has caused us to collapse kind of the lead IT person that was causing or supporting this change for
Supported
us.
the change.
Right,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
this
yeah.
person has to be SQL server based, they have to know how to deal with Meraki, they have to be able to do JR's day-to-day work, but also then help us migrate to bring in the Tyler software package, load it onto our servers, migrate that and Setaru as well, and then connect the two as we move forward.
Mhm.
All inside the Meraki, which is the safety space that we have built for them.
Mhm. And we are also advertising for an IT administrator as well. This person's just backfilling.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
since
so,
we have
yeah.
that person on board, we'll either significantly reduce this work activity or eliminate it.
Right.
In the meantime, we got work that needs to happen in order to keep us on
Sounds
track.
like immediate.
Right
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
so the debate here was whether or not we called an emergency meeting to bring you guys in to sign this contract, because I have
Mhm.
nobody.
Right.
And
Yeah, yeah.
truly, the staff I have cannot do the work that
Right.
Sheriff is
Yeah.
doing.
This is very technical.
Yeah. And you know, we are also running parallel. So in addition to migrating,
Right.
we're running everything else. Yeah.
So I just had some questions.
Sure.
On the contract. First of all, you referenced in staff report payroll processing error, and I know you answered me yesterday, but I forgot what that was, and he probably hasn't had the benefit of it. Do you see that on here? And a payroll processing error. So can you tell us what that was?
Sure. What that was that the new W-4 requirements that came out of Congress required that we withhold at different rates, and also required that other considerations are given before the withholding is there. And so our existing software system was unable to process the new tables. So as a result of that, our paycheck was very wrong. Withholdings were very wrong. But we have been able to contact Panamation, and they have went in behind our system. They're playing with the code now to try to get it right. If they can't get it right, my staff is going to work however long it takes to produce payroll manually outside of the system with Excel and make sure it's right. So it's going to happen.
We have to get it done.
But
Yeah,
we got to
have
get
to.
it done.
The employees are being paid more than they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So
They're
we're
not
gonna have to-
withholding at proper
Yeah,
rates.
so we're
Yeah,
gonna have to
yeah.
start taking it out of them, and the longer it goes, the harder it's gonna hit.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
gonna cause a problem for everybody, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're not in a choice place here.
We kind of got to do it.
How
Yeah.
did this happen again?
Well, what was Congress produces our W-4 withholding tables, and then all of those withholding amounts changed underneath the new tax law, and also too they put another
When
rent.
was that effective? Was it
Ja-
19?
January 1st.
2020.
2020,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
So
so it's
everything was
not.
good up until
Yeah,
that
okay,
point.
so
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
like,
We've only had one check go through so far.
That's right,
In this
yeah.
situation.
okay.
Yeah, and also too the new system allowed you to withhold additional after the withholding tables. So the way the new tax code works is that you can do withholding table, then you can bring it around an extra one for special benefits. Our little poor system, it just, the code wasn't able to process it.
So this goes back to our old.
Get rid of Panamation.
system.
Yeah, we just didn't keep the upgrade on it.
As an example, we use QuickBooks, they send out the notice, we have to pay an annual fee.
There you go.
And it just says update.
Update.
It does it, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think of that.
Yeah. So we're working on it. We're without a doubt, we're getting it done. So this gentleman will help us continue to push everything ahead.
So one of my comments about this contract is,
Mhm.
I read carefully, but I still didn't see, I'm thinking about an NDA, meaning, we're consulting with them, they're in our in the middle of all our business here. And I see that there's a confidentiality, but it didn't really read like a heavy-duty confidentiality should read. Like, this person is creating a work product, they're in the middle of our financial and accounting, there should be some standard that they can't talk to anybody about this or disclose it in any way. And I didn't really, it says, if either party discloses information that has been agreed to be kept confidential. Well, so when does that agreement to be, or can you just have language that says, anything you touch is going to be confidential? I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what you guys do, but it seems like there should be, in this instance especially, a pretty strong NDA.
Yeah, well, I mean, this confidentiality is reviewed by our attorneys. And
Uh-huh.
so
Yeah,
also,
This isn't set up for this kind of, we've never hired
Right.
a confidential employee like this.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is that this just wasn't,
We're-
this is a stock contract, if you will, and it doesn't really address.
yeah, we're not hiring, this person's not a temporary employee. This person is a consultant.
Understood.
And so-
Even
But
more,
so that makes this more.
More important.
more important. So I think that we need to change part of the language, Marvin, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it should say, all information shall be designated as confidential, and
There
neither
you go.
party shall be obligated, maintain, and parties shall be you're right, so we just need to reshape this.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
what I
okay.
thought, is you just need
We can
to
work, yeah.
Okay.
reconfigure that so that it's very clear that they're held. And then,
I thought we had, where's the?
well, there's another place.
There's an appendix, right, Marvin? Didn't we build that confidentiality appendix?
That,
For,
Section D.
yeah, but that's for software vendors. This is different. Like when we contracted with Tyler, et cetera, right?
Uh-huh.
They signed that big cybersecurity agreement. Those are software vendors.
Right.
Because they're going in behind our firewalls and they're manipulating. This person is not, this person is,
inside the firewall.
he's
I know,
inside it,
that's
but
what's really
Just make
he-
it
freaking me
work.
out.
but no,
Yeah.
he's not remoting in. Once he
That
gets
doesn't
in,
matter. He sees everything that we do.
he
Right.
sees
Okay,
everything.
I'm not arguing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't wanna
If
argue.
you're
We
okay
want
with the word in the contract, let's move forward with that, with direction to staff to create.
direction to a strong NDA,
strong
and
NDA.
then.
Okay.
And then
What's that?
Okay.
NDA, non-disclosure agreement.
Disclosure.
Okay.
And then the other comment about that is generally in the NDAs that I work with, then there's something about, and if you should disclose this, the penalties for that are hard to do. So we're gonna fine you, 3 times your salary, or, I don't know, it's just some ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
But, it's like you can limit their liability, because see, their E&O is only $1 million.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, they could do a lot more damage than $1 million, easily. So those were my concerns around this.
Yeah,
contract.
yeah.
And then there's not an attorney's fees provision, or is there?
No, I
Yeah.
don't believe there is.
Yeah, I think we
Right,
need to
'cause
have an
we're-
attorney.
These have like mandatory arbitration clauses?
No, it's like if,
If we go.
if you go to court and NID wins,
You pay.
the consultant pays NID's attorney's fees, or vice versa. But it's a provision, it's a provision to kind of keep people from suing each other.
Mhm, yeah.
It's like, oh boy, yeah, I'm gonna have to pay their attorney's fees, that's a big number. And when there is a thing in here called proprietary data, but I
Yeah.
looked at that and it really didn't do it either.
That's not in the right space, no. I
No,
think
it's like it's all kind of-
It's here, so we created an appendix, but it's supposed to be in this confidentiality, but we've never hired a confidential employee.
A consultant,
A consultant
an
in-
outside consultant.
into a confidential position.
Right.
So I think that this, I don't necessarily know that with direction from the board or direction from committee, I will create that around this with Andy.
Yeah, you
We'll
should.
make sure that we'll get that, and
Yeah.
then we'll also put in the attorney's fees part.
Okay.
And we'll look to add that to future contracts.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Can you clarify where that's going to be added so I can have it in my minutes?
So we're gonna, what I wanna do is amend Article 8 confidentiality to directly reflect that the position is confidential and that all information that this person will touch will be confidential, and that there are penalties necessarily attached to disclosure of that, and also to add a attorney's fees clause to the contract as well.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very good. Yeah.
Would you like this under consent or open agenda?
This is for their approval right now.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine as long as those provisions are added, subject to that direction.
And
I just-
I'll report back to the board. Or to the committee.
Yeah,
Committee or to the board?
To the committee.
The committee, yeah.
yeah.
Well, how fast are you trying to get this done?
Yeah, right,
Today.
immediately, yeah. And I'm sorry about that, but it's like, man,
No, I
you know,
mean,
when
this
you're
is
in a
a good-
hurry
Right.
to do something, you don't wanna overlook those
Right.
little details that could just bite you in the butt.
Yeah, yeah. I'm good.
Okay, cool. And I just want to point out one thing to you, because this was something I talked to them about, but they have a conversion fee which is common, meaning if, like, we like the person that they sent us so well. Oh, this
Very
is the
end.
end of their
Exhibit
contract,
fee.
exhibit fee. Yeah. I think this is important because
Keep
this is
going.
the back,
Okay.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier, so here we have their hourly rate,
Yeah.
but then they have a 35% conversion fee. And, what that means, or maybe you wanna tell them what that means, I won't tell them what it means.
So what Hunt's trying to do is make sure we don't
Hire away their people.
their employee.
Oh.
And so what happens is you bring in somebody, you're like, hey, wow, you're really
You're really
great,
good.
we're
We
gonna
wanna
hire
keep
you.
you, yeah.
We don't wanna pay $250,000, we wanna
Ah.
hire you directly. We cut the company out and hire their employee.
Right.
Right, so they're protecting their
So
employment
if you
asset.
do that.
We pay a 35%
Percent of what?
of the annual compensation.
Annual compensation. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's a big fee,
It's a big fee.
and,
So we get to do this if we wanna do that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
If they're that good.
If they're that good,
Mhm.
then we can think about it, but that's an important provision to
Okay.
just be aware of, I think.
Pointing it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Close item 5, number 6, Jackie.
Morning, Jackie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, committee, staff, members of the public, Jacqueline Longshore, NID Maintenance Manager. And this morning, I'm here to present information on the U.S. General Services Administration Federal Surplus Personal Property Donation Program and advance recommendation to the board as appropriate. The district is always in search of ways to enhance efficiency, reduce costs, and minimize impacts such as carbon footprint. The GSA Federal Surplus Property Program presents itself as an opportunity to do this through incorporation of, we'll just say, recycled surplus federal property, such as vehicles, equipment, and furniture to meet district needs. The program enables eligible non-federal organizations to obtain personal property that's no longer needed by federal government. Federal personal property includes all types of property, including but not limited to, again, vehicles, equipment, and furniture. It does not include land or other federal properties, naval vessels, and records of the federal government. The GSA.
We wanted that.
You can't buy a gunship, put it on Walls Lake.
Look for sunken boats out there.
Yeah.
Submarine.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, submarine.
We did see some really cool ships on the website. The GSA Federal Surplus Property Program works with local entities through estate agencies for surplus properties. They're called SASP for short. They're a state-run organization that coordinates the federal program for donation of the federal property to more local public tax-supported entities such as NID, a special district. Eligible entities include state and public agencies, including political subdivisions such as small districts. SASP reviews entity applications for eligibility and participation. They serve to screen available surplus property. If you give them, a list of things that we're looking for, they kind of serve as a broker. They can look for it for you. They also provide the access to the web-based list of items. They facilitate the handling and transportation and administration of that personal property transfer. SASP in California charges a service fee for the original acquisition cost, or based on the original acquisition costs. It's either 10% of the acquisition cost or $100, whichever is greater. So there is a cost. To participate in the program, the district must apply for eligibility through SASP. The local SASP evaluates the organization and determines eligibility based on submission of documentation, which is listed in the attachments. This includes a resolution from the governing board. So to establish eligibility and participate in the program, it's in alignment with strategic goals number 1 and 4, as it is a proactive management of our physical and financial resources through integration of technologies that enhance efficiency. So with that, I recommend submitting the application. It requires completion of the attached documents and resolution from the board.
So what kind of things are we looking to get through this?
It allows us to look at federal surplus property that includes heavy equipment, vehicles, furniture. I think those are the 3 items that I think would be a good focus. The website is a pretty efficient way to take a look at that, and the SASP also.
And is it bid? When you see something on the website and you go, oh yeah, we need one of those. Is it like an eBay kind of thing where you submit
Yes,
an electronic bid?
I don't know that it's a bid. I don't know how that exactly works, or if it's a conversation with the local SASP.
I thought this said it was free.
It is free, but there is a transfer
Yeah.
cost.
So there might be a bid on the item.
So if you're saying if there's competition between the
Yeah,
two?
there's 2 agencies that want the same truck.
I don't know that there's a bidding war for that.
Oh, just curious.
Yeah,
Never
there's,
done
yeah, we've never done it before. I've never heard of there being great competition for items. I think it's probably
Well,
first
never
come,
does.
first serve is my
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't this the same group that gets like the crazy armored personnel carriers
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
stuff for the police officers? Not something we're interested in, clearly. But.
Yeah, but they do have heavy equipment listed on there.
Oh, we might need one.
Thanks, Greg.
Greg wants one. He wants to play with these.
Might need
Yeah.
one in the future.
Well, I think it's great. Yes, go,
Yes.
go, go, go. Get
Okay.
it, get it.
All right.
There's no real cost to us in terms of putting this all together.
There's no real
right?
cost for
Right.
submitting the application and then
Okay,
getting
so-
on board with them. It's just
So it's just a resolution?
a resolution, yes.
Okay.
So we'll bring that to
Can that go to
Consent.
consent?
That's a resolution.
Okay. Get it all prepped and, thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Charlie.
Close 6, open 7. Last item on the agenda today, Greg Jones, Assistant General Manager. So this is the safety activities report from January to February. End of February, page 1 talks about, and has you, we decided to add some photos so you can see what's going on here, some stuff. This is a recent Slate Creek Road and Ridge Road explosion, I guess you should say. So we had to get a permit, we had to go in, and so safety staff was certainly on scene and helped with the defining the permit and getting it from the county and moving in, making sure our staff were able to go in there and that they were trained to make sure that we had the activities.
In an emergency situation like this? That's interesting.
No, this is after.
I'm sorry, this was, we repaired it and then we had to, this was this.
okay.
No,
Wow.
the emergency
At the bottom of this-
itself.
At the bottom of this was a valve that
Yeah.
we thought was dead,
Uh-huh.
but was actually not dead.
Yeah. So we had repaired it. This was to get into somewhere else along the road.
Oh, okay.
Make sure something happened. But yeah, to get into some of these areas, we have to make sure that we've got all the necessary equipment and
Right.
information ready to go. So our safety department is on scene, helping with maintenance, helping with water ops, making sure that all of those activities go appropriately.
So is this like a, excuse me, is this like a manhole, this concrete box is there permanently and you just have to open it up and go in it?
Yeah.
That's-
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So anywhere where you're registering low oxygen content or any other gases that might be present, we go in and we make sure that those are effective. Safety staff is always there when any one of our district staff is going in and doing anything like this. Training, our safety crew we're doing a lot of training. We are constantly doing any type of training for all departments, operations, rec, hydro, maintenance. In particular, this is a series of photographs that we were really excited to go help out with Bear River High School. I think we've talked about this before. They received their OSHA 4, OSHA 10 training, and so they're walking out of this classroom with an OSHA 10 certification, and it was a cooperation between Bear River High School, us, and Hanson Brothers. So it really became a really nice opportunity for us to be in the classroom, spend a lot of time with these kids, and very excited. So that was a really fun thing to do while they were out there. And then general coordination amongst the districts and the departments around the district. We meet with the engineering department to talk about new platform designs for new tanks at the Long Ravine Campground. So we're working with engineering and recreation and different departments talking about designs that are OSHA related. We're talking, we meet with the treatments, and the confined space entry, we talked about that up at Slate Creek Road. We're meeting with the maintenance department when we talk about PPEs or personal protective equipment, what they're gonna need, what they're gonna use as we engage ourselves in the Bear Valley flume systems, upper country, winter clothing, not so necessary this year, but in other years, right, we need to know what it is and how our staff is going to be handling it. And then just briefly at the bottom, a couple years ago, we took over a first aid kit repair and ongoing maintenance. So we have a number of first aid kits throughout the district. One of our cost savings that you might have seen in a couple years ago is that we decided to take over all of the annual and semi-annual repair and checking of these first aid kits. So our safety staff then kind of gets in their truck and they drive around and they take care of all the, they open it up and they figure out what's been used. Right. We were paying an organization to do that on an annual basis for the last decade and a half. It was silly. So that was one of the ways that we were able to identify small cost savings. It's not huge, but it's enough. Yeah. So that's kind of a brief overview of the safety. We're excited moving forward, and there's a lot more to go. Questions?
Who does the fire extinguisher testing? Do
Our
you
group.
do that in-house?
Yep.
Okay, so that's what, annual or
Yep.
whatever?
Yep.
Make sure we have.
There's a lot of training that we're about to engage in that is out of house. We have to bring in folks. I mean, we have CPR, first aid, so we bring people in. We have heavy machinery equipment that we bring in CAT or someone else to help with training on there. The confined space we do in-house. There are other elements, though, that we have to go outside and bring in some consultants to make sure that we just don't have the capacity or the capability to do stuff. So.
What is the MSDS online portal?
So that's the material safety data sheets.
Oh, okay.
So that's
an
just
OSHA thing, right?
that's an OSHA thing.
Yeah.
It's an update every year on the new systems, and that's quite a heavy lift, to be honest with you. Those are books that are this thick,
I know.
and
They're a big deal.
and it is expensive. We've looked to see how we can include it inclusive in our trucks and our online systems where we can update it electronically. That didn't go so great. So it is a physical printing job, book creation, packet assigned to trucks and supervisors and seniors.
These would have like iPads that you could just go.
Well, we've looked into that with IT.
Or-
We've looked into that with IT, and there are confusions around it.
Issues, right?
There's issues around it.
Issues.
Yeah, but questions?
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Which you're allowed to go walk in and change all day today.
You can change
You
your
can
phone.
change. You can change
Well,
everything.
No.
if you have your ballot.
Oh, if you have
can
your
walk in
ballot.
and go, I don't want this one, I want that one. Or I
Yes.
don't like this one, I don't wanna be in this party, I wanna be in that party.
Hold on,
Or I don't
hold
wanna
on,
be in
hold
that
on,
one.
hold on. Let's close ABC.
Yeah, let's close ABC.
ABC is closed.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
very
much.
much.
10:05.